Okay, I got it.
All right. So now, Kaylin, you can start.
Okay. I just wanted to say my internet keeps going in and out, so if I don't respond to anyone, I probably didn't hear you. Okay, so we watched The Shining. What did everyone think about it?
Oh, it was really good.
Was it your first time watching it, Kyle?
I've seen like bits and pieces of it before, but I've never watched the full movie until now.
It's personally my favorite.
Well, I don't like scary movies, daggone it. It was pretty scary. I didn't like it.
It's a little creepy.
What about it got under your skin, Keegan?
You got the nail biting scenes, and that like right there is why I hate scary movies. You know, like when it was like in the hedge part right there, and you're just like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, that I hate that. And then like another part was when the wife goes up there and like the ghost, there's like a bear, I think, a costume bear. And then I was like, what in the world?
The movie doesn't really explain it that well. I thought it was pretty funny though, because it's in the book.
I remember the first time watching this movie, and me and my really good friend Max were just sitting on the bed doing whatever, and then that scene just happens, and the utter confusion is.
Yeah, it's
Like-
pretty funny.
The look on Wendy's face during that scene echoes the audience's look.
Yeah.
Very much
For
so.
sure. Here's some background on the film. It was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and it was released in 1980. And the main stars of the movie is Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, and Denny Lloyd. And it was based on the novel The Shining by Stephen King. Okay, I didn't get to ask the question, so I ask them now. I'll have like the ones that are coordinated to it. What did you guys think about the characters in this movie?
Well, personally, I think our fan favorite murderer, the very memeable man. I wish that I had read the book to have more context on like his insanity, because I've never read The Shining. I've only watched the movie, and I
It's
feel
different for
like.
sure.
Yeah, and I feel like with this movie, we really don't get that animosity that he had. Like, you know, we clearly know that he has strong feelings for murder, but it's like what's deep seated with that, and that's kind of what I wanted more of during the movie.
That leads me to question one. Do you think Jack went crazy from cabin fever, or do you think it was the hotel? Or maybe both.
I think, personally for me, I think it's a combination of both, because, you know, cabin fever isn't as bad if you have, a way to entertain yourself. But, you know, he's probably up in the hotel, isolated and alone, because, like, him and the kid and the woman are probably the only people he's seen in a while. And he probably thinks that's a trick being played on him by the hotel. So, you know, I feel like his murderous lust and rage is more so directed at the hotel than just his own insanity.
Yeah, I could see that. Well, you also see earlier in the movie that he like pulled Danny's arm out of socket, so maybe he's got some anger stuff going on there
Yeah.
with his alcoholism.
I think this guy's unhinged from the start.
Oh yeah.
Like very opening moments of the movie, I think you can kind of tell he's already losing it. I mean, the scene where they go to the hotel, Jack tells Danny about the cannibal family that lived up in the mountains or whatever, right?
It was a little dark.
He's just the smiley, the Jack Nicholson smile he has on his face, right?
Oh yeah, that was definitely the creepiest part.
It's almost as bad as the guy who played Pennywise in the 1980s version. Alexa, off. I swear she goes off at the worst times. But I don't know. I really like this movie. It's one of my favorites. I just wish that I had the background of the Shining book, but I'm not going to go and read it.
Well, the book and the movie are two completely different texts.
Oh yeah.
Very radically different texts. Stephen King hates this movie. He hates this movie because Stanley Kubrick pretty much changed what Stanley Kubrick did to the book was he took a lot of the overly supernatural stuff out of it. So like the fact that Kaylin's asking this question, like you wouldn't even ask that question of The Shining, the book, because everything is so crystal clear, supernatural. Like it's not Jack Torrance's fault in the book. But in the movie, like he takes all of that supernatural exposition out, kind of leaves it to your imagination about whether they're going crazy or whether he actually went crazy or whether something's causing it. So I don't know.
Oh, so he basically made a movie, and he's like, figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally, I think the movie is better because of that.
I do too. I think it's not as cheesy as the book.
I think whenever you have things that are very open to, like the artist's interpretation and then your personal opinions on it, I think a lot of things get muddled in the muddy water. But I also think that can lead to a movie being better than it was, intended to be.
Yeah, he actually hates Jack Nicholson as Jack because he said he was like too creepy from the beginning. And in the book, he's like slowly going mad, but in the movie, it's like the opposite.
Do you have a question about the woman?
Not particularly for her. I kind of just muddled them together.
Because personally, I think she's the truly insane one. She's up here in the snowed, isolated mountains with her 19-year-old kid, and she's just like, oh, I'll just come up here by myself with no husband or anything to help with my life or anything, and I'm just gonna be here for a little bit and hopefully not get axe murdered. Oh, that's the first thing that's happening to me here? Great, fantastic. I'm like, I would never ever in my life go, one, to a hotel in a highly isolated area, two, spend the night there, or even want to be there with my kid. Like, personally, she's just insane in this movie. And she proves it through her actions. She's running through this entire scene, and it's where she's got her baseball bat, and she locks herself in the bathroom, and then obviously the here's Johnny scene right after that, and then I'm like, you put yourself in a situation where it's much easier for you to get killed. You're insane.
I guess she also just wanted to believe that her husband wouldn't. Probably didn't cross her mind.
Yeah, and it's like, she I just feel like she made every wrong move in this movie. Like every wrong turn she could have taken, she took. Especially like whenever they're out in the hedges.
Yeah.
What did you guys think of Shelley Duvall's performance as this character?
Definitely authentic and award worthy.
Yeah.
There's a famous story behind this performance. I don't know if you're planning to talk about Kubrick any, Kaylin.
I was going to talk about Shelley's experience with Kubrick later.
Yeah, you want to kind of want to go ahead and do that since we're on it.
Okay, yeah. Well, basically the famous like baseball bat scene where she's like trying to hit him with it when he's trying to kill her. He made her record that 127 times, and it won a record for the most retakes of a scene with dialogue. So she was really emotionally just not there.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah, he pretty much bullied her on set. Like it wasn't just that scene. Like, almost every scene he made her film the take like 80 or 90 times. But he did that for a reason, right? He did that to actually tire her out and make her like give this like completely unhinged performance. So this is a case where he pretty much treated her like a dog, right, to get that performance out, where her husband treats her like a dog in the movie. So it's kind of like method acting, except it's method directing.
Yeah, Stanley Kubrick is really infamous for things like this. Like he reshoots scenes a lot, and he's a very meticulous director.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not one I'd want to work with.
Yeah, he's probably the most renowned director of all time. It's between him or Hitchcock, as far as like the two most famous directors ever. This guy did this. He did 2001: A Space Odyssey, which is one of the great sci-fi films.
I believe it's also the #1 film in like cinema history, according to like several websites.
2001.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I normally teach that one in this class, but I decided not to this time. But he did Spartacus. He did a movie called Lolita, which is about a young stepdaughter having a relationship with her stepfather. That's what that's about. He did Full Metal Jacket, which we're going to watch later in the class. So we're going to get 2 Kubrick films in this class: Full Metal Jacket, the Vietnam movie, A Clockwork Orange. He did A Clockwork Orange.
Also, another movie that he went off book for, because I've seen that movie and read the book, and both of those are very different because, you know, Kubrick has his own vision for everything.
You're talking about Clockwork Orange?
Yeah. Like, I was so lost in the movie. I'm like, this is insane. Until the very ending. And then I went and read the book because it was an assignment for class. And I'm like, oh, well, the movie makes sense now.
He was a little extreme with some of the stuff he did. Like, he would make everybody on set ignore her a lot of the times, too. Trying to make her feel crazy, I guess.
What do you guys think of this, though? The fact that he did like bully her to get this reaction out of her. They said that she had some really bad mental issues after this movie. Like she had some like PTSD from doing this movie.
I would too.
Did you see the interview of her with Dr. Phil a while back?
I did not know.
She went on there because she has been out of Hollywood for so long and out of the media. She's like lived like remotely, and then like she is like obviously like suffering for some kind of mental illness. She tried to say that Robin Williams was a shape-shifting lizard and he's not dead. So it might be related. I don't know.
I mean, there are people that say that now that we would say are insane. Like, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said that the wildfires in California were caused by a Jewish space laser. So,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
how do we let crazy people like that have power? That goes for Kubrick too. That man is insane.
Well,
But
it
I
worked
think
out
it's
good for him though.
I think it's the good kind of insane though.
Mhm.
Like the creative genius insanity.
Yeah. I'll move on to the next slide here. One of the questions I asked was, is there any scenes that stuck out to you? Because there's so many in this movie that are pretty iconic, I feel like. Of course, the most iconic being Here's Johnny, which was actually improvised by Jack Nicholson. In fact. And then I also put the blood coming out of the elevator. I thought that was pretty creepy. And then the car driving up the road to like the soundtrack. That really showed how isolated the hotel really was.
Yeah, that's a cool scene. It kind of shows how small they are, right?
Yeah.
Just because he filmed that from a helicopter, so you can kind of see like how small the characters are and this big, vast nature of this big, vast wilderness that they're in.
Yeah. Also, I have to say, I love the font that you put this in for like the headers because it very much matches. I don't know if this is correct or not, but I read a long time ago whenever I watched the movie whether or not the elevator scene was a practical effect or CGI, and apparently it was a practical effect. They like filled that elevator to the brim with like redded water, and I'm like, how does that even work? You know.
Yeah, I think it was physically like coming out of the elevator. I should look more into that though. I thought
Yeah.
the ending photo scene was kind of weird too. I have a whole slide on that next. But if there's any important scenes that anyone like, you can mention them if you want to.
Talking about that ending photo scene, Mr. Yeager, that had me stumped, and I want to know, like, it says 1921 on it. So, like, how is he in that photo?
Oh, just wait.
Okay, there we go. Never mind. Never mind.
Well, that scene has actually brought on a bunch of conspiracy theories about the movie. Like, there's so many videos and websites where people talk about it because Kubrick suggested that maybe it was reincarnation, but he just suggested it. He didn't say indefinitely. So. But the most popular theory is that he was reincarnated to do the hotel's bidding. And you could see that with like whenever the ghost that was supposedly Grady told him that he's always been the caretaker. And then at the beginning, when he said he had a sense of deja vu, like he knew what was around every corner. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's famously not in the book too. That's something that Kubrick threw in there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that really pissed off the author. You know, like I don't know how I would feel if somebody took my original work and kind of been like, I'm gonna take the outline and then fill everything in else myself,
And arguably make it better.
yeah. You know, but I do kind of wish that we had that more supernatural part to it because I feel like it would have explained things a little bit better. But we do get that hint of the supernatural, especially with like scenes like this. And also, it's my personal theory that scene with, the dog mask and all that, that's like an image of the past of something happening. It's not something actually happening, but I don't know if that's like something wild to say or not. But that's just my personal theory about that. And also, a lot of things that like something that reinforces that idea for me is the twins.
Where are you going with this, Will?
Well, it with this, I just feel like we get that supernatural part of it, but it's like just a small portion of like the mise scene in its entirety. Like we get the supernatural aspect of it, but it's like a fun size bit of it. Like it's enough to make you want more of it, and then you don't get a lot of it. You know what I mean? And then, on top of that, whenever we get the ending photo, it's like, oh, there is a supernatural element to it. It's like, bam, there in your face. And then we get that. And it's like, well, that's what I wanted the whole time. That's just me personally.
Yeah, I could say that. And then with like, it goes with this theory, I guess. He knew like the characters, a lot of them that are the ghosts, like the bartender and stuff. I feel like that plays into the fact that maybe he was reincarnated.
Yeah. This movie just like leaves me wanting more out of it.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably what makes it good though.
Yeah. You're so invested that you'll go down rabbit holes like, oh, fan theories and stuff like that. And I feel like that's also something that plays into like the aura of a movie. Like if you can create like theories and thousands of videos on like YouTube or just like famous interviews and stuff like that, I think that really like hypes up a movie and makes the surrounding presence of that movie just that much better.
Makes you want to watch it a bunch of times after to see what you missed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've probably seen this 100 times, and I get something new out of it every time I see it.
Oh yeah, you start paying attention to stuff you didn't realize all the times you watched it. There's so many little details. Move on. So the second question I had was, what was a noticeable mise-en-scene moment that you really paid attention to? And these are the ones that I noticed the most, especially with like the camera work. I feel like there's a lot of wide shots in it, and it makes you feel like isolated and like claustrophobic at the same time. So I thought that was pretty weird.
Yeah, I agree. Like the hotel just has this sense of lonely and longing. It's like, there's so much wide open space for you to explore, but it's just like very sullen and I don't know. I watch this movie and I get like sad. And I know it's a horror-esque movie, but like I watch it and I just get sad because like I just feel alone. And there's like, I mean, obviously there's other people around, but it just the hotel just has a way of making you feel isolated. It's so prominent.
What do you guys think of the soundtrack?
Yeah, the one thing I want to bring up today is the Native American themes in the movie. That the soundtrack has a lot of like Native American type like sounds to it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So Kubrick kind of throws a lot of stuff out there in there that about Native Americans, like the genocide of the Native Americans. Right. So like a lot of times, like during the more suspenseful moments, like you'll kind of get that sort of chanting kind of tone.
I thought the soundtrack was really crazy too. Whenever the car's driving up there, of course.
Yeah, it's like a little too intense for just that. Like it's very good at that foreshadowing aspect of it. And like, you know, sometimes, you know, soundtracks don't really have a purpose, but I love it whenever they do, because whenever you can have a soundtrack that makes you, you know, think as indicatively as the actual scene itself, I think you did a good job with the soundtrack. You know, you want something that adds to the story rather than just, you know, like, oh, this is good transitional music.
The song "Midnight with the Stars and You," right? That's iconic with this movie. Toy Story 4 made fun of it. I don't know if you guys saw Toy Story 4 last year.
I did, but I was so focused on how gorgeous the animation was. Oh, that movie is beautiful.
Yeah, the weird toy, right? They played the song.
I noticed. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, to go back to your question about mise en scene, Caitlin, one of the big ones that sticks out to me is Danny riding his big wheel around the hotel.
Yeah. It's following him.
Yeah, that's an iconic scene.
Yeah, that scene is that particular thing is used a lot. Like there's like a scene in Family Guy, American Dad, and a bunch of other shows that have, you know, some kid on a big wheel, and I just find that hilarious.
I thought the sound of it going across the carpet was pretty weird too. And then it just stops and it goes in the hardwood. And that's all you hear.
Yeah, and then you said red's a prominent color, especially with the weird carpets and stuff. The one scene where it's not is when Jack goes into the room with the creepy old lady, right?
Yeah.
And that scene, it's very vivid green, right? So why did he do that? I don't know. That's something that we can talk about. But that's the one scene in the movie that isn't in bright red. It's like a sort of light green when he goes into the crazy old lady's room. So
I have a bit of an idea about that if you'd like me to share.
Go ahead.
Well, this movie is all about feeling insane and, you know, just like having your sanity really stretched and tested to its limit. So personally, I thought, you know, the entire time, you know, like, because we get this very prominent color of red and it's unnatural, so to speak. And so it almost feels like you're on a sense enhancing drug whenever you're looking at these colors. And, you know, whenever Jack goes into that room, you know, with the old lady and it's a completely different color, it's almost like you're coming down or having a bad trip from a high. That's what it very much feels like, because, you know, this entire time we're getting these like super unnatural, bright, nice colors, and then we get this like just this begrudging, like drag green. And the only reason I really say that is because I have experience with like Vincent van Gogh, because, you know, to create the sunflowers, he was on all kinds of medicines that made him saw, you know, light and colors differently. So that's why it reminded me a lot of that.
I could say that. Feels kind of like a dream state in that scene, doesn't it?
Yeah. I feel like I've never done it, but I feel like if you got high and watched this movie, it'd be a totally different experience.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I should ask my stoner friend to go watch it.
Yeah, they're showing it in the theater out in Beckley this week. No, they're showing it at the theater in Beckley on Halloween Day. That's when they're showing it.
Class field trip.
Yeah.
That'd be cool to see it in like actual theater.
What the rest of y'all think about that scene? Pretty weird shit, right? I mean, he goes in, he sees this beautiful, like hot chick in tub, right? She kind of gets up, like goes over and seduces him. Then he looks in the mirror and sees her like rotting old lady stuff, right? What did you guys think of that scene? Like, what were you like? What the fuck, right? What
Yeah.
did you?
Yeah, that sums it up pretty good right there.
I don't know. It's very much reminiscent of like you can't forget that people age, so it's just like he's gonna seduce her, but oh, you're old and ugly now. Oh, I can't do nothing with that. And it's very reminiscent of the fact that well, it's something that my dad used to tell me is like one day you're gonna wake up and be old, or your wife is gonna be old. And I'm like, I guess that's true, but are you gonna love them any less? And he said yes.
Oh my gosh.
I'm like, okay, Dad. and that's why you've been divorced 4 times.
I'm not.
Wow.
Yeah, thematically, I don't know. I've never really been able to kind of wrap my mind around that scene. That scene's definitely where Jack goes over the edge as far as going mad. But arguably, he was writing his little journal where he says all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Right? He was writing that before that. So I don't even think we can make the claim that that's the scene that made him snap.
And he was trying to get some play on, and then whenever he didn't, I think that really sent him over the edge.
Yeah, he didn't even ask the girl like why she hurt Danny or anything. He was just seeing a hot chick and he was going for it.
I feel like that's reminiscent of most men, though.
Yeah.
Ooh, hot lady in a bathtub. Let me slide up on that.
Yeah, that suggests something about his relationship with Wendy, right? It's probably not too lively of a relationship.
Oh, I'm sure she's a dead fish.
I also feel like he kind of like talks down to her a lot of the times too when she's trying to talk to him. So it could be either.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Like the scene where he like chases her back, right? The one you said was filmed 100+ times, right?
Mm-hmm.
That one, he's definitely like talking to her like she's a 5-year-old.
Oh yeah.
I wish we had gotten to explore the relationship between him and Danny, because that would, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot there that could have been explored, because, obviously if you're insane and stuff, you have about the mental capacity of about somebody that old. So it would be interesting to see how he would interact with him more through like transitional phases in the hotel's, horrorscape, essentially. I don't know. Like I said, this movie makes me want more of it. Like, I want a sequel.
There is a sequel.
Is there? I didn't know that.
It's called Doctor Sleep. I haven't watched it yet.
It's excellent. It's excellent.
I have the book. I just haven't got around to read it.
Yeah, the director is the guy who did a lot of these big Netflix shows that are going on right now, The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. Right, it's the same director. And he nailed it. Like,
I bet it's good then.
Yeah, it's Danny grown up, right? And he finds somebody else who has the shining. So it's a good movie.
I'm
Does it
looking
go
at
into more depth about like The Shining in and of itself? Because I feel like we didn't really get to explore it that much in the original movie.
Right?
Well, I think I'm definitely gonna watch this on my own time because I just looked it up.
And it's got Ewan McGregor in it from Star Wars. And for the movie, they used the Kubrick Shining as the inspiration. So like it's almost like a sequel to the Kubrick Shining instead of the King Shining.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one of the effects I added in, they remade it in 1997. Stephen King did, and I heard it sucks.
Yeah, it's like a 6-hour-long mini-series.
Yeah, they added like all the supernatural stuff they didn't add in the movie, like with the hedges coming alive and stuff. Like I've seen small scenes from it.
Well, there's a big thing with the boiler, right, where they blow the hotel up at the end in the book with because the boiler's alive or something.
Oh wow,
Hmm.
it's very Stephen King.
Yeah, I don't know what mental illnesses he has, but I think he needs to be checked out to a psychiatric ward. But a little interesting fact is the American Horror Story season 7 hotel was based heavily off of Stanley Kubrick's version of The Shining, and that's one of the best seasons of the whole show if you've never seen it.
It's the one with Lady Gaga in it.
Oh yes, she's fantastic in that season.
I stopped watching the show around that point. The freak show kind of did it
That
in
one
for me.
sucks.
Yeah. Listen, you can skip Asylum, Freak Show, and
I like
Roanoke.
Asylum.
Asylum's okay, but like honestly, you can watch Murder House, Coven, Hotel, and Apocalypse because those are the ones that actually go together and are canonically and make sense in order. And then now the new one's actually pretty good. But Apocalypse, Coven, Murder House, and Hotel are the best seasons.
I think the new one's supposed to go with Asylum, have those aliens in it. But they're not doing that good of a job. So.
Have you seen the new
least.
season? It's fantastic.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch the last episode, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
That's all the slides I have. We already talked about all of this. So.
All right. Yeah, you can stop your share now if you want, Caleb. Now we'll dive into specifics now. So you guys and Logan been kind of quiet today. What did you guys make of this film? Any stick out to any of you all?
I'd seen it. I'd seen The Shining before. So like the first time I watched it, I don't think I really appreciated it as much. Like I just felt like it got really slow and like it was very repetitive. But then the second time I watched it, like you said, when you watch a movie a couple more times, you pick up on things that you've already seen. And I don't know. I think I really liked it the second time I watched it because I had read the book, but I think I liked the movie more than the book.
Right, you're probably looking for more things like camera and he's on scene and stuff this time.
Well, like we said, Mr. Yeager does ruin movies for everybody.
I'd say in this case, it probably helped it.
Yeah. Man, it makes me want to. This class makes me want to go back and rewatch like all the old movies that I've seen and just super analyze them.
How to hold up in Jurassic Park. I can't really see the classroom over there. I don't know if Kyle's there today.
You just got me, Des, and Kaylee here today.
What'd you make of all this, Desmond?
I don't know. I've seen this movie like a bunch of times, and I don't know. I think I've gotten, I don't know, a little bit tired of it. I think it's a little bit overrated.
Gas.
Yeah.
Silence fills the room.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. This movie is iconic, and maybe it is.
Yeah, I would just like I'm interested to like what was that whole deal with the bear scene was? Like, what does that even, what's the story behind that? Like, I would love to know.
Actually, the guy that was in like the suit was supposed to be like one of the first caretakers, not caretakers, but the owners. He was like gay, and they was highlighting that.
Oh.
My theory about that is it was like an after image of like a party that happened in the early 1940s or 30s or something like that, like a masquerade party, and that was just something that was happening during one of the big parties that they would have, because that kind of hotel has a history of stuff like that. It just seems like there would have been big celeb parties there.
Maybe the movie suggesting that having a furry fetish is really weird.
I'm gonna sit down with my furry friend and make him watch this and be like, "Hey, this is gonna be you in 2 years."
So weird. It's just so. That's like the scene when he walks in and like, yeah, the lady's getting out of the bathtub and like my brother walks in and he was like, "What are you watching?" And I was like, "Just get out of here, just get out of here." There's just so much like, I don't know how to explain it. It's like the movie, like once, like you'll have some random scene like that, and then it just gets super slow. Like I felt like it took me forever to watch the movie, and then it's like, and then it's like, oh well, he's crazy now. Here's all the action in like the last 45 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I feel like this movie has a lot of those, like, that traditional kind of story arc thing that, have like rising tension and like climaxes involved. I feel like it has several of those, like a roller coaster, because there's high, low, high, low, high, low, low, high, and it just keeps going back and forth because, we get these very intense scenes. Then it's a lot of nothing, intense scene, then a lot of nothing, and then we get intensity for the rest of the movie. I
want to show you guys a couple of like little clues in the movie. Like I told you guys earlier, there's a Native American theme in the movie. One of the parts of the mise en scene it's always talked about is you can kind of see, like here in the background behind, like you kind of see the can of food. It's got like an Indian chief on it. That can of food shows up again when Jack is locked up at the end. Like you see it there too. Let's see what else. There's lots of visual clues that he just throws in here. Yeah, these. Yeah, there's a lot of like visual clues suggesting the movie is about, especially the hotel. You guys know the cliche, right? Lots of times these haunted houses or whatever in these films, they'll take place on a Native American burial ground.
Poltergeist.
Yeah, like Poltergeist too, right? Yes, there's lots of insinuations about that, just from little small visual clues or from the soundtrack. The soundtrack sounds very Native American, and sometimes.
Can you go to that one with the little like white statue? That right there. I
Which
think that's
one?
a Wendigo.
Right here.
That white statue that looks like a skeleton. I think that might be a Wendigo, which is a Native American horror creature.
Yeah.
It's like they're cannibals. So like if a person eats the flesh of another, they like become this big horrible thing. And that's we got that mention of cannibals. I didn't even notice that until you just pulled those things up.
Right, it's right here.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think you're right there, Will. I never thought of that before.
It does look like a Wendigo. If you want to, you can look it up and show the class because they're freaky.
Yeah, if any of you guys have played the game Until Dawn, and they're in that game.
Yeah, that's what made me think about it. Oh man, I didn't even see that the first time I watched this movie.
Yeah, there's that Native American subtext. There's also a subtext in this movie, and this is where shit starts to get really dark. There's also a subtext that this movie is about sexual abuse, right? Because I don't know what you guys will have to say about this, but I watched a video about this, and I was kind of convinced after I saw the video. Like there's insinuations that Danny and all the weird things he exhibits, psychological problems he exhibits, might be because he's being abused, right? And arguably by Jack, right? Because the one scene where Danny and Jack are together in Jack's room, right? He's like it's really weird and intense. He's like, I'll always love you, Danny. Right. I don't know if you guys remember the scene I'm talking about. But that scene is often pointed out for that reason. Right. That seems like a super intense scene for no reason.
Well, you've just made me completely rethink the question that I asked earlier about wanting Johnny and Danny to have more of an involved relationship. Now I don't want that because you've just convinced me that Danny is being sexually abused or just abused in some way. Oh.
Yeah, all of his problems, all these weird things he demonstrates is a symptom of his trauma. That's what has been posited. Like even like he'll suck his thumb a couple of times in the movie and stuff like that. Yeah, I didn't mean to take the class down a dark alleyway here, right? But that is a popular theory about the film, which makes it
on the rabbit hole again.
yeah.
I feel like this movie is nothing but rabbit holes. You want to explore an idea or a thought about one particular scene, and it's like you somehow get to Bush did 9/11 on the internet. Oh man, I'm just rethinking this entire movie now.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the analysis that makes the argument for this. There's a really good YouTube channel called Collective Learning. This guy like puts out all these theories about these movies, and he's brilliant. Like the guy who does these videos is brilliant. So I'll have to send the one to you about that. Yeah, he's made like 20 videos on The Shining, just because it's such a popular movie to overanalyze.
Yeah, because it leaves a lot to the imagination, and the imagination runs wild. I've been thinking about a question for this movie in particular. Does anybody think they would like survive the hotel? Because I don't think I would. I think I would end up killing myself.
Oh, yeah, that's one of the questions I had, but I didn't really know how to incorporate it on the slides.
Oh well, it's a good thing I asked it then, huh?
Yeah.
It seems to prey on people who might already go into it with some type of like mental illness or something, right? So it seems to prey on that type of thing.
Well, being autistic, dyslexic, and a bunch of other problems that I have, yeah, I don't think I'd make it. Because I'm already one bad day from just being like, you know what? I think it's a good idea to kill everyone. So I don't think this hotel would be the place for me, or maybe it would be the perfect place for me. It's that very much paradoxical thought. It's like either this is the best place for you to go or the worst place. There is no in between.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but every time I've been in the Greenbrier, I get Shining vibes.
That place is just creepy on a whole nother level. Like we took me and my friends, we all went, I think we were in middle school, and they were like, well, let's just go explore the place. And like it just felt like every room that I went into, like I just felt like somebody was sitting on my chest, and I hated it and I was miserable. And I was like, I don't like this. Like I'm just waiting for something to come running down this hallway and just take me away, take me out. It was horrible.
My grandma, when she was younger, she went there, and she always had like this affinity for the supernatural. Like, she said she kept ghosts in her house all the time, and like she had a lot of ghost friends and could see her ex-husband and all kinds of stuff like that. And she said that's one place she'd never go back to because it was just so quote unquote loud. And I'm like, I'm sure people have been murdered there. That's 100% a fact. You cannot change my mind.
Yeah, knowing that they made it a Cold War bunker, right? That's kind of, that adds to the eeriness of the place. Have you guys ever got that feeling? Like I asked my 102 English 102 class on Gothic horror this question, right? Have you guys ever been to, like, we just learned some of you got that feeling from the Greenbrier. Have you guys ever been to a place where you just get that sort of uncanny feeling, like something's not right here?
I've been to the jail in Alabama that had the most hangings in history. Like it had the most dead prisoners at one time, and like they executed people like clockwork there. And I went there on a school trip, and I hated every minute of it. I didn't want to go inside. They let us spend the night in the jail, and I refused. I stayed out and slept on the bus. Like, I'm not one for the supernatural, and I'm not really superstitious or anything, but that just gave me such like a black aura vibe to it that it just made me physically sick. And I think I forget what the jail is called. I don't even remember the name of it, but yeah, it had the most prisoner deaths in the entire prison industrial complex, and I think it still does to this day. And I'm a man of science, so if that makes you think about anything, like that place made me physically ill.
Yeah, I've gotten that feeling a couple places too. I don't know if you guys ever been around Mercer County much, but there's a haunted. I actually do legit think this place is haunted. It's this old abandoned amusement park. It's in Mercer County. It's called Lake Shawnee. Right? You've
They
been?
say this haunted. Never been. I just started I don't know, researching about it because it's on so many different things. I listened to a podcast about it, and it's so creepy.
Yeah, like if you drive by, like you see this like old abandoned Ferris wheel when it's covered in moss, right, from like decades of where it hasn't been used in decades. Right? You just kind of get this eerie feeling driving by it.
They actually do weddings.
Yeah, they around this time of year on the weekends they have like a little haunted carnival thing there and everything like that. So the owners definitely exploited, right? But supposedly, like back in the 1700s, a family lived there and was butchered by Native Americans, right? And then the amusement park was in the 50s and 60s. A couple of kids died from accidents, stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of history to the place.
Pretty sure Marshall excavated it. Is that the word I'm supposed to use? I don't know. But they was looking for artifacts there. It was pretty cool. They found bones and stuff.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I went and researched it, and I was like, wow.
I want to know what the people that get married there look like. I want a registry of who they are, because who's like, let's go get married at Silent Hill? Like, yeah, that sounds like a fantastic idea. I would not go. I would be like, no, Shelley, I'm not going to your horror wedding at all.
I'm surprised my wife didn't want to get married there because she's like that.
Oh, does your wife got a witchy vibe going on and all that?
She's just into that type of stuff,
Oh, my friend Amanda would probably get married there. She's like one of those hedge witches, and she lives in Salem. She's all into that horror aesthetic.
Now that's the general idea behind this hotel, right? The hotel has the shining, right? It has the shining is this like energy, this sort of mental energy that's still stuck with the place because of all the stuff that's happened there. So
it gives off the Sixth Sense vibe very much. Like, I see dead people. It's just like that's the entire movie basically. I see dead people giving blowjobs.
Had a furry fetish.
Fun fact, those are called mersuits. I only know that because my friend told me. Because I sit here and text them. I'm like, hey, what? Go watch this scene of The Shining. He's like, that's a mercy. I'm like, thank you for telling me that, Daniel. I needed to know that so much. Well, the things I could live without knowing or seeing.
Hey, I'm not going to kink shame anybody. Right? It works.
I'm not kink shaming either, but should have closed the door.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, so
Wow.
later in the class, guys, when we get to Full Metal Jacket, that's Kubrick's movie he made after The Shining. So like a lot of the stuff we've talked about today, the bright, saturated colors, and like his whole style and aesthetic, you'll be able to keep that in mind later when you watch his other film we'll watch.
Good. I think I'll like Stanley Kubrick more from a analysis perspective rather than just him as a director. Especially if we get to more of his movies. Also, why is it taking me this entire time to realize that's Dracula's castle in your background from Castlevania?
It is.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I'm like, man, that's been there the entire time I didn't notice.
Yeah, I taught the Dracula novel in my class last night, so that's why I have that up.
Oh, that would be a great series to do like media analysis on, because that show flips the entire genre, like, and expectations on its head, and I love it.
Yeah, I enjoy the show. I love the video games too, the Castlevania video games.
Hmm.
They're
Man,
a little old school for you guys. They were popular in the 90s.
I play them now on the PlayStation Retro thing, and they're great. I definitely love how it flips it on its head. And like, I feel like Camilla should have been able to win. Like, she done so much to win. And then it was like, Isaac, I have my army here to stop you.
Yeah, well, it was a bit anticlimactic for that character, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that fight scene was fantastic. 10 out of 10. Even better than the fight with Dracula himself.
Yeah, I'm glad they're continuing the show with a different line of characters. So.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely going to be great.
Yeah, guys, definitely check out, if you like The Shining, definitely check out Doctor Sleep. It's a very good sequel. So it's not often I say that, but it's very much a quality film.
Yeah.
Before it cuts us off, our next class is on The Lost Boys, 1987. Olivia will be your presenter for that one. So, Lost Boys, classic vampire movie from the 80s. So, yeah, this movie, once you watch it, this is very 80s. So you're going to get lots of 80s music, 80s aesthetic with costumes and the clothing they're wearing. Because this movie is going to kick you with the 80s. So brace yourself.
Wonder if anybody in here is going to see a VHS and is like, what is that?
Yeah, this is a death by stereo type of movie. The soundtrack is very important. The soundtrack is very important to Lost Boys, as you'll see. Lost Boys isn't that deep, I don't think. It's just a great, fun movie. So I'll be interested to hear what we all come up with.
Yeah, I'm excited for us to watch Full Metal Jacket too, because the whole like first 30 minutes of that movie is nothing but like comedy, and then it gets serious.
Next week is the Lost Boys, and next Thursday is the Exorcism of Emily Rhodes, which is a very good exorcism movie. It's arguably better than The Exorcist, I think.
That movie is more fun than scary.
Yeah. Back in the 70s when The Exorcist came out, people were barfing in the theaters watching it. So
I guess I must be desensitized then, because that movie is nothing.
that'll probably cut us off in a minute, guys. I hate how it does that, by the way.